Very good evening and a hearty welcome to all the attendees of this webinar conducted on the 360 degrees view of the Indian judicial system. I hope am I audible to everyone. You can type yes if I'm audible. So this is Purnima Kapoor, a law enthusiast, writer and a student of Law School of Lovely Professional University. This evening, I would like to deliver my amicable thanks to our honorable guest speaker, exalted advocate Himanjali Gautam, and all the attendees for gracing this webinar with their presence. Legit Leaders Amplifying Law is a platform that has been created with the idea of providing knowledge and opportunities to the people in the legal field. We understand the importance of on-field knowledge and tact and therefore aim to provide internships and publications from various highly esteemed firms to our members. Our mission is to amplify the knowledge of all the law aspirants. Your active participation is important throughout the session. Right now, we have everyone on mute to avoid background noises and distraction. So throughout the presentation, someone on the staff will be managing the chat functionality. You can type your queries and comments in the question box throughout the presentation. I would also request all the participants to refrain themselves from typing anything but questions and refrain from switching on their videos or unmuting themselves. Further, I would like to introduce our reputable guest for today's webinar. It's indeed a great privilege to deliver her introduction this evening. Very good evening, ma'am, first of all. So, Himanjali Gautam is an advocate at the Supreme Court of India and has been handling cases independently since 2016. She has assisted senior advocate Mr. Praveen H. Parekh in giving legal opinions and representing leading organizations like Reliance Industries Limited, Zoom developers, and people at eminent positions, including the President of India and former chief ministers. Apart from working under constitutional obligations, her ladyship has been an active campaign leader and has also been a president of Law Center Second in the Faculty of Law in the University of Delhi. She is also a zealous chess player and a Femina Style Diva 2013 finalist. Her Excellency also includes as a versatile speaker at various conferences on major law subjects. Not only her virtual persona has oratory skills, she has authored several articles and also appears in frequently on various national news channels addressing issues of national importance. Now I would like to hand over the control to our highly virtuous and honorable guest of this evening, Advocate Himanjali Gautam. Thank you.
Sorry. Right, so very good evening to all of you. So I'm going to repeat myself. And thank you for such a sweet introduction. May I know about my audience so that I can address accordingly? So do we have law students or young lawyers, or can you just quickly, briefly tell me about them?
Good evening,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, we are having mixed audience.
Okay. So basically law students.
Yes, ma'am. Most of them are law students.
All right, then I'll simplify my address.
I am BCom honors student.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay. So thank you, Legit Leaders, for inviting me to speak on such an important issue. I'm very impressed with your vision. So Legit Leaders, if I'm correct, then it has been created with an idea to provide immense knowledge and opportunities to the people in legal field. It's a matter of immense pleasure to be a part of such a great idea. I think this is a startup started by the law aspirants with a vision to provide life-transforming learning experience, and their mission is to involve and inspire advocates to take pro bono cases. So I'm very happy with this part because I'm also running legal awareness programs in different small towns of India. All right, so today we have gathered here to mainly speak or rather understand these, basic 5 points. So the topic is very broad and wide. So everything under the sun can be, spoken about, and it takes like so many days if I cannot cover everything in one webinar. So basically we are going to speak I'm going to speak on these 5 points. Number 1, BCI's new request to Supreme Court for lower judiciary. Number 2, promotion at all levels in complete judicial system, complete criteria. Posts from lower judiciary to higher judiciary. I'll explain the hierarchy. Number 4, different criteria to be appointed as a judge. Number 5, why there are vacancies and how to cut them. So one by one, I'll deal with each and every issue. So may I know for how long do I have to speak? How much time do I have? So that I can divide my time accordingly.
Ma'am, approximately 1 hour.
Oh, okay.
1 hour or as sufficient, as comfortable to you.
All right. So it's around, I have time till 5:15 or 5:30, and I'll be leaving like 20 minutes for you to conclude and for the question answer session, because I want the session to be a very interactive session. So I'm looking forward to your inputs as well.
All right.
So it's, I don't want a very monologue kind of session. All right. So let me come to the first point. BCI's new request to the Honorable Supreme Court regarding the lower judiciary. So since all of you are aware, let me just quickly read out this thing. Need for minimum practice as advocate for judicial services. So right now there is no such criteria. I have my interns here, Niharika and Nikita. So they are going to help me with the slides. Okay. So at present, fresh law graduates are being allowed to sit for the judicial service examination without having any practical experience at the bar. So as per BCI, and there are many other state bar councils as well. So they're strongly in favor of minimum 3-year experience as an advocate to be considered eligible to appear in a judicial service exam. And they have a very fair concern. So as per them, they feel they have recently came up with a notification as well. So recently, what happened that Rule 5, Subclause 2A1 of the Andhra Pradesh State Judicial Service Rules of 2007 was challenged before the Supreme Court. The rule laid down a precondition of 3 years of practice as an advocate to be eligible to write the civil judge exam in the state. On 2nd of January, the Bar Council of India said that it will file an impediment application before the Apex Court seeking modification of the 2002 Supreme Court order in All India Judges Association versus Union of India, wherein the court rejected the eligibility criteria of 3-year experience at the bar for giving state judicial service exam. So basically, in that particular judgment, in the 2002 judgment in Supreme Court, so there was this eligibility criteria for 3 years of experience at the bar, and court had rejected it. So right now, a fresh law graduate can become a judge. So now there are many practical problems, which are coming up because of this thing, because a law student does not have the required experience at the bar. So they are generally very idealistic. They don't know the reality. They don't know how to deal with the bench, with the bar. So the BCI moved, it reignited a dormant debate of whether minimum practice at the bar should be a prerequisite for entry into judicial services, even at the lowest level. The issue holds prominence as subordinate judiciary is considered to be the foundation of our judicial system. There is no denial of the fact that fresh law graduates lack practical experience. Their knowledge is restricted to theories, bare provisions, and idealism, which may not be sufficient to understand the working of law within court premises. The debate on the minimum eligibility of judicial officers is a long one and is mostly dictated by the time in which suggestions on it were made. The history of this debate has been traced in detail by Vidhi Center for Legal Policy in its report on schooling the judges, the selection and training of civil judges and the judicial magistrates. In pre-constitution times, the issue of 3-year experience requirement was considered by the Rankin Commission in 1924, which observed that the rule in force in certain provinces requiring candidates to have practice at the bar for a period of 3 years or more furnishes no guarantee that the candidate has acquired any really useful experience. After independence, Article 234 was adopted in our constitution, which authorized recruitment of judicial officers below the district judge, but this article was not substantively debated in the Constituent Assembly. However, one of the qualifying criteria for civil judges and judicial magistrate in India has been a practice requirement of 3 years before a court of law after graduation, combined with an examination and an interview conducted by the State Commission in consultation with the High Court that has jurisdiction over the state. So now I would like my audience to think of the reason why this minimum criteria of 3-year practice shall be scrapped. Like, I mean, as per you, I mean, are you for or against, and what do you think about this thing? Anyone from the audience who wants to chip in?
Can you just repeat it once again?
Okay, so basically my question is now that now that so I have already discussed that the main topic of concern, that now BCI wants minimum 3 years of experience for as the eligibility criteria to be appointed as a judge. So right now a fresh law graduate can become a judge. So what do you people think about it as a young law student or as a student or as a young lawyer? So what do you think about this thing? Can you come up with a suitable argument in favor of scrapping this 3 year of experience requirement?
Actually, I am in favor of putting this 3-year criteria requirement, because what I felt and what I feel as a law student is that we as a young law student and as a pass out student after 5 years or after 3 years of law, we just don't know about the functionality of the courts and the functionality of the various technicalities which happen in the court actually. And people have an argument on this that judicial officers have been given training on that very particular note. But what I feel is training is just on vestibule training and apprenticeship training, which don't provide at least the real framework of the working of the courts. So it is very much necessary for everybody to have a 3-year experience before going as a judge to the courts, so that they could feel and respect the dignity of the lawyers as well. They could understand their work and they could understand how they are doing the work and could provide a better judgments to the people instead of just doing it that way like it's been happening from a very long time. Thank you so much.
So that is a very good explanation. So I want to listen to a contrary opinion from my audience. So who are not in the favor of 3 years of experience. So right now, because there are many judges, there are many young judges who are just 23, 24 years old, or directly, freshers from the law school who become judge.
Hello.
As per this 2002 judgment.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Arushi.
Ma'am, I personally respect all the ideas, but I do not favor this this notification. As personally, I feel that 5 years are enough for a law student. The curriculum should be set up in that way that it will help the aspirants of judiciary as well. And the second thing, the bar is taking a heavy amount from the lawyers, and they are not doing as that much as they are meant to be. And the third thing is, you can take an example of UPSC aspirants. It is also as important as the judicial officers, and they are given training after they clear their exams. So that kind of system can be adopted instead of increasing mandating this 3-year time period. And what I feel is, after 3 years, if I'm practicing and within 3 years I'm having a nice big cases and a number of cases, why would I shift to judiciary? And the times is kind of the girls are not even have that much of time. After 5 years, we are spending 3 years in the practice and then for judiciary. I don't feel in that case, if this will continue, what I personally feel is the judiciary will be a second option then.
Arusha, can I see your face while you're speaking, and can I learn something about your background? From which law school?
Yes, ma'am. I'm from a lovely professional university, and I'm a 4th year law student. BA LLB I'm doing.
So I like the way both the students have expressed themselves, and I very much so. Arushi has also raised very important points, and I agree with her. So though at this point, I personally believe that this 3-year experience requirement shall be there, because the kind of the quality of judges we have right now, they actually lack the practical experience. But I strongly agree with Arushi when she's saying that BCI also needs to come up with certain reforms. So right now, see, we are not living in a very idealistic world. So let's see. So right now the current situation is such that so I have like 8-9 years of work experience now. I'm a first generation lawyer. So someone who comes from a certain background, or who comes from a family of judges, or who's second, third generation lawyer, तो वो तो ठीक है. So there is always a difference, because once you grow up in that kind of environment, so there are so many things you develop that kind of vocabulary. You know so many things just because your parents, they are part of that system, or because you've seen a family member. But as a fresher for a first generation lawyer, there are so many things which we are not taught in the law school. So around 10 years back, or when I graduated around in 2012, so obviously now the way these law colleges, these 5-year law colleges, 3-year law colleges, the way they are teaching. Just a second, I need to take this call. Hello. अच्छा, I'm in the middle of a lecture. तो मैं घर पे हूँ, in the middle of a lecture. It's H30. It's H30. It's Oh, I'm extremely sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah. So right now, the situation is such that once you join this profession, there are so many things which like you are not even aware of. There's so many new things, and you learn those things on the job. You learn the code craft, you know the basic etiquettes, you know how to present yourself. And so I agree with Arushi, because right now we are not taught so many things of, once you finish a law degree, you'll join a lawyer's chamber. So what they would say, they would ask you for a few questions, and they'll say, "Kya aapko to kuch bhi nahi aata hai? Do you know how to draft an SLP? Do you know this and that?" I'll ask you a few questions. और आपको बोलेंगे आपको तो आता नहीं है, so you do one thing, that we won't pay you, or we'll pay you like peanuts, and you work with us for 3-4 years. और 2-3 years उसके बाद ही आपको कुछ सीखने को मतलब मिलेगा, which is not the case with MBA, with doctors, or with other professionals. So I mean, litigation lawyers are expected to work for peanuts for a couple of years, for the initial years of their career. So that's the reason why many young law students, they feel that judiciary is a safer option, because it takes a couple of years for you to establish yourself in this profession. So in my case, so I don't come so I come from a good family, like middle class family, but still my parents were always comparing कि अच्छा वो बहन ने MBA किया है, वहाँ से she has that kind of package, आपको तो पता ही नहीं है. Even after 3-4 years of work experience, you are not considered stable. या तो you're working with a senior. So in my case, I was working like 14-15 hours every day without a chutti. And I did not know, in case if I wanted to start my own practice, but I was clueless. I did not know how to start. And I'll tell you, when I went to the Supreme Court, so first day my senior asked me what happened in the court. So I asked the court master what happened. Then he told me board discharged. A board discharge, now we know, now you people know, because you are doing so many internships in the court, so you understand what does it mean. But I thought कि maybe उसकी battery leak हो गई होगी, तो उसका board discharge हो गया होगा. That is something which is very funny. But I mean, I did not know about that thing, because I had never seen Supreme Court before joining my senior's chamber. So these are the basic things. आपको judge वहाँ पे बताएंगे stay notice, what happened in the matter. So stay notice, आपको 2 word बोल के वो file फेंक देंगे, आप लोग क्या करोगे? समझ में आएगा आपको? What does it mean? Stay of the proceedings and notice issued to the other party. So there are many seasoned lawyers. So now there are many in High Court. There are many lawyers who are like doing really well. So they directly join High Court. They directly join the bench. They get invitation. and then they become judges in High Court. So they know the court craft. Then those seasoned lawyers, I mean, in my case, my senior, he used to look at the judges and unke expression dekh ke he used to know what's going to happen in that matter. So, I mean, you need certain experience, you need certain knowledge, you need to have that court craft to understand. Otherwise, those seasoned lawyers, they would just play you. You won't know. Or in many cases, what happened that these young judges, they don't know the court etiquettes because you're straight directly, you come from your college and you directly join the profession, or you directly become a judge. Then you lack certain things. And for that, I think some experience is required, or maybe BCI shall also come up with certain reforms wherein they equip the students more, because they are charging hefty amounts. And there are many new law colleges which are mushrooming. I mean, every year you have new universities, new colleges giving law degrees, and BCI, they give the permission, they give all these things, they prepare their our curriculum. So that is what laws we are going to study, that is decided by BCI. So once you decide like what we are going to study, then how come once we graduate, once we have our degree, you tell us that now we are not equipped, now we do not have the required knowledge? Why? Then why? What are you teaching us in our law school? So yes, BCI needs to come up with certain reforms, and yes, it's a very obvious contention which is raised against the BCI, which Arush has also highlighted, that they're going to draw parallel between judicial services and executive services, more specifically services allotted by Union Public Service Commission. If a person can become an IAS officer, then why can't a person become a judge at 21 years of age? The underlying presumption here is that both services are similarly situated in terms of nature of employment. A closer scrutiny is required to confirm this hypothesis. Since the Constitution provides detailed procedures of employment, eligibility, and other requirement, and there is little doubt that these are constitutional positions and there is no requirement of further clarification. The issue of nature of employment arises in lower judiciary, where all executive and judicial organs of state are involved in appointment and dictating service condition of judges. Because I started my career in Supreme Court, in many cases, many funny incidences also took place. So when we read the district court orders and high court orders, so we start from district court orders once the matter is in Supreme Court. So there are many judges who, I mean, that is not related to this BCI's resolution, but that is something separate. So there are many lawyers who come from vernacular backgrounds, and there is nothing wrong with that because our country has mixed culture. So in that case, sometimes what happens is they think in Hindi or in their native language, and then they think in their own language, and then they try to translate that thing. So understanding that thing is very difficult. So I mean, it was written in one order. The case is running in from one court to another, as if running is, I mean, court मतलब case चल रहा है, तो उसको फिर वो translate करके case is running. तो काफी कुछ hilarious situations भी होती थी वहाँ पे. But yes, so it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen, because I'm sure Supreme Court is going to take BCI's case as well. And but in the meanwhile, I think that this 3 years experience requirement is shall be there. So anyone who wants to say anything on this topic, or shall I move to another point?
Good evening, ma'am. मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो डिसीजन ले, बट फिर भी एक लॉ स्टूडेंट के अकॉर्डिंग हम जब 5 ईयर का कोर्स करके जा रहे हैं जुडिशरी के लिए, तो पहले तो मतलब सेमेस्टर हम लोग का टाइम पे नहीं होता है, उसमें 1-2 साल लगना ही लगना है. फिर जब वहाँ उसमें प्रॉब्लम आता है, और फिर उसमें अगर वहाँ एक्सपीरियंस मांग रहा है, तो एक्सपीरियंस के लिए तो मूट कोर्ट का भी तो प्रोवाइड कराना चाहिए ना, मूट कोर्ट कंपल्सरी कराना चाहिए, तो वो चीज नहीं हो पाता.
Yeah, moot without competitions, they shall be compulsory. And apart from that, I think, just in my opinion, that's my personal thing, just the way these doctors, jitne bhi medical colleges hote hain, they have a doctor. So I think jitne bhi courts hote hain, so because there are many colleges, they like Law Center 1, Law Center 2, they have just 3 hours of classes. And you have like 24 hours in a day. So I think for 5-6 hours, a student shall do internship. So just a doctors go hospital mein, they gain practical experience. In the similar fashion, if lawyers also start gaining practical experience in court, along with their studies, so it's going to become really helpful. But you know what, it's very unfortunate, but system is such that it automatically weeds out first generation lawyer or those who do not come from a rich background. So system is in such a fashion, तभी तो यहाँ पे कहते हैं कि there is nepotism is there. There are many second, third generation lawyer because आप sustain नहीं कर पाओगे इस profession में. Because if you want to get into litigation, there are so many law colleges every year, thousands of students they become lawyers. तो उनको absorb कहाँ करोगे? Where are you going to absorb them? Then what happens? They do not have that kind of vacancies. Those big chambers, these big law firms, so they take so many things into account. They have limited positions, and a major chunk of it is, they absorb judges or someone who's related, or someone who's giving them business, someone who comes from a big businessman background, or someone who's a politician's relative or son or daughter. I don't need to point out these things. These things are there. It's a bitter truth. Or these senior advocates, they have just 4-5 associates with them, and who also come from a certain background. There are very few first generation lawyers, and you do not even get a chance to give your interview. Because I did someone from the audience just asked about my background, so I have done my LLB from Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. I've done my graduation from Daulat Ram. I was president of my college. I was a feminist idea finalist. Still, I was always well known in my, because of my student politics and other things. During my student days also, channels used to cover me, but still I was not good enough. So, I tried to apply different चेम्बर्स और डिफरेंट लॉ फर्म्स, तो कहीं से रिप्लाई नहीं मिला. कुछ जगह पे वहां पे जब हम गए भी तो इंटरव्यू देने के लिए, देन सीनियर आस्क्ड कि व्हाट्स योर बैकग्राउंड. तो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे जो पूछा जाता है कि व्हाट्स योर बैकग्राउंड, किसको जानते हो आप, तो हाउ यू आर रिलेटेड. सो बेसिकली दे ट्राई टू गैदर योर बैकग्राउंड एंड हाउ यूजफुल यू आर गोइंग टू देम, अदरवाइज दे डोंट ट्रेन यू. Most of them, not all. Yeah, there are a couple of senior advocates who have given, chances to first generation lawyers. So system is such, now you'll join a normal lawyer. So they would say कि अच्छा, you're not good enough, practice with us. We won't pay you because आपको सीखने का मौका मिल रहा है. We are giving you a chance to learn. Now, if you're not from Delhi, if you're coming from Mumbai, or you're coming from another state, you have bills to pay. The minimum you need in a month, if you are living in a PG or you're sharing your room with someone, and then you're not, you're traveling by buses or metros, or you're not having tiffin services, still you would need 15,000-20,000 per month, at least, for your bare expenses, for your food and shelter. 20 to 25,000 minimum you need, and there's hardly any lawyer. There are very few lawyers who pay that kind of money. So even if they are paying you, they would pay you like 7,000, 10,000 per month. Then how would you survive? So that is then what happens? You go back to your hometown, or those who don't come from that kind of background. वो एक law degree के बाद भी girls they eventually get married. There are many. The dropout rate is very high. So it's like so you do not have that kind of training नहीं मिलेगा, आप survive नहीं कर पाओगे इस profession में. Automatically you'll weed out from the system. And those who come from a certain background, who are rich, or those who they get best of the opportunities. It's like everyone is working hard. But once you get best of the training, you get exposure, you get chance to work on high stake matters. Then slowly, even if you're not very good, even if you're 50% good, then you become like 80-90%. And then with continuous practice, like you become a good lawyer. There are many good first generation lawyers, I'm sure, who could do really well, but the system is such that they automatically weed out. So yeah, girls, the way Arushi has also pointed out, that they do not have that kind of time, because if 5 साल के उसके बाद में practice के बाद you do you after finishing your degree, again if you need like 3 years of practice. तो गर्ल्स का तो इन इंडियन सोसाइटी देयर इज दिस थिंग ना, यू हैव टू गेट मैरिड, वो शादी के नहीं होगी उसके बाद, और स्पेशली गर्ल्स का तो वैसे भी बोलते हैं दे बिकम लॉयर, तो यू नो दे वेरी आर्ग्यूमेंटेटिव, सो दे आर नॉट कंसीडर्ड इंडियन सोसाइटी में, वो बहुत ज्यादा मैरिज मटेरियल नहीं होता, बिकॉज दे वांट वेरी डोसाइल गर्ल. लड़कियों का लगता है अच्छा लॉयर लड़की होगी तो पता नहीं she's there is a general perception that she's going to be argumentative. So yeah, these are the things. So yeah, BCI or these I mean, yes, they are against this thing, but they should also come up with certain reforms which are required. And there are many senior advocates who write these articles and who say things like who are very much concerned about first generation lawyers and this and that, but actually they don't walk the talk. When you personally go and meet them, they won't give you any attention, they won't give you any opportunity. But yes, for the purpose of, writing any article, they would write articles in Indian Express or on all these fancy newspapers, or they would appear on TV and say that they are very much concerned. But that is not the case. So I'm sure Supreme Court would understand all these points and would come to a conclusion. All right, let me come to our second point. Promotions at all levels in complete judicial system, complete criteria. So I would request my Niharika or Nikita from my chamber to just share that screen. Yeah, thank you, Niharika. So can you see this chart?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay. All right. So now one by one, I'll explain all the points. Okay, because of the size of the country, the judiciary system is planned as per the requirements of the citizen of India, with location of courts as per status to serve the community of India with efficiency. The present judicial system of India is being it's made effective through the Constitution of India. The judicial system of India mainly consists of 3 types of court: the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the Subordinate Court. I mean, all of you, I think, even a BCom honor student knows these things: the Supreme Court, High Court, and Subordinate Courts. Now, I'll explain briefly. Number 1, Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of India is the highest level of court in India's judicial system. So it was established as per Part 5, Chapter 4 of the Constitution of India. This court has started its operation since 28th of January 1950. As conferred by Articles 124 to 147 of Indian Constitution, the jurisdiction and composition of the Supreme Court is being fixed. This court is primarily of the status of appellate court. These types of petitions are accepted under Article 32 of Indian Constitution. This article confers the right to ensure remedies through Constitution. This court also hears about such serious issues which need to be attended with immediate attention. This court is comprised of the Chief Justice along with 30 other judges. So right now we have 30 other judges, but there shall be 34 judges. So sometimes there are 24 judges or 25 judges. So this time currently there are 30 judges in the Supreme Court. And Chief Justice, Justice Bobde, he's the Chief Justice of India. The Supreme Court is governed by the Supreme Court rules, which was published in the year 1966. The Article 145 of the Constitution of India to ensure the regulation of procedures and practices of the Supreme Court. And one very important thing which I want to tell you, that in Supreme Court only an advocate and record can file a petition, though anyone can argue the matter, but the filing is done only by advocate and records, wherein there is no such condition in other courts like High Court or Subordinate Courts. So let me come to High Court. So I'm being really quick because we are hard pressed for time. And I have 3 other points. So I'll briefly, I'll tell you about these points.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, no problem.
So the High Courts are second courts of importance in a democracy of India. They are governed by Article 141 of the Constitution of India. High courts are the types of court which are instituted as the courts powered by Constitution with the effect of Article 214, Part 4, Chapter 5 of the Indian Constitution. So there are 24 high courts in India. They are mainly exercising their jurisdiction related to civil or criminal domain if the lower courts are proved incapable of exercising their power as per authorization extended by the law. So in easier words, I'll tell you that so there is something called peculiar jurisdiction, so which is not there in all the high courts. In Delhi, it's like कि 2 crore से ऊपर का जो matter होगा वो high court में आएगा. It's not the case in all the high courts. The high courts are involved in the appeals raised in the cases of lower courts with the writ petition as conferred in Article 226 of the Constitution of India. Now, lower courts have like different kind of courts under lower court. District courts. These type of courts exercise their power of judicial services on district level. These courts are covered by the administrative power of the High Court, under which the district courts are covered. The district courts are mainly run by the state government appointed district judges. The subordinate courts covering the civil cases in this aspect are considered as Junior Civil Judge Court, Principal Junior and Senior Civil Judge Court, which are also known as subordinate courts. So there are in total 351 district courts in operation, out of which 342 are of state, while 9 are of union territories. Village courts. These village courts are named as Lok Adalat or Nyay Panchayat, which means the service of justice extended to the villages of India. This is a system for resolving disputes in micro level. The need of these courts is justified through the Madras Village Court Act of 1888. The latest development had been observed in 2008 through initiation of Gram Nyayalayas Act, which had sponsored the concept of installation of 5,000 mobile courts throughout the country. Okay, so now I'll come to the third point. Post from lower judiciary to higher judiciary, the hierarchy. Number 1, Chief Justice of India. The Chief Justice of India is the head of the Indian judiciary and the Supreme Court of India. Administrative functions are also headed by him. So do we have any slide for that, Niharika? All right, I'll just read it out. Also headed by him, as the head of the superior courtroom, the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice is answerable for the allocation of instances and appointment of constitutional benches which addresses crucial subjects of law. Justice of the Supreme Court, under Article 124 of the Indian Constitution, which provides for constitution and establishment of Supreme Court, Clause 1 states that the Supreme Court of India comprises as Chief Justice and another number of judges as Parliament by law prescribes. Just a second. Originally, the other number of judges was 7, excluding the Chief Justice of India. Presently, the total number of judges in the Supreme Court is 30. I've already mentioned that. So now, Chief Justice of the High Court. Now, from Supreme Court, I'm coming to High Court. So, Chief Justice of the High Court, Justice of the High Court, Principal District and Session Judge, and that is a hierarchy from Supreme Court, other judges of the Supreme Court, then Chief Justice of the High Court, then under that comes Justice of the High Court, under them comes District and Session Judge, and uske baad aata hai Judicial Commissioner. The posts of Judicial Commissioners and Additional Judicial Commissioners were existed pre-independence and continued till the enactment of CRPC in 1973 in Article 50 of the Constitution of India. Before the separation of the judiciary from the executive branch, these posts were held either by the senior members of the Indian Civil Services or district judges. However, the courts of Judicial Commissioners has completely abolished and replaced with post of District and Sessions Judge except in one district. Currently, Ranchi, Jharkhand is the only district in India where this post still exists, although it's now occupied by the officers of the higher judicial services of the Jharkhand judiciary. Then Principal Judge of Family Court. Functions include granting divorce as per law, ordering interim maintenance, ordering litigation. It's basically divorce cases go to this court. And their functions are like the way I've already mentioned: granting divorce as per law, ordering interim maintenance, ordering litigation expenses, ordering custody of children, visiting rights, etc. Then additional district and session judge, additional judicial commissioner, special judge. So there are various types of special judges. fast track court, CBI court, NIA court, POXO court, NDPS, TADA court, etc. Under them comes is Chief Judicial Magistrate of Chief Metropolitan Magistrate, CMM भी बोलते हैं इसको. Then Special Judicial or Metropolitan Magistrate, Railway Magistrate, CBI court, etc. Additional CJM. So Niharika, from my speech, I think you can share that list.
Okay, ma'am, I'm sharing.
Otherwise, I'll get confused. So you can slowly scroll it down. Post from higher judiciary, it's on page number 4. Post from higher to lower judiciary hierarchy. So now I'm at page number 6. So let them quickly see that. Okay. District Munsif, civil side, metropolitan magistrate in metropolitan area, judicial magistrate, second class, registrar, different posts in Supreme Court and High Court. They manage both administrative and judicial sides in departments under the authority of Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and the High Court. Registrar Generals, they are appointed by the High Court and they are also known as executive officer. Sheristadar, he is a person in charge of receiving and checking court pleas and documents. Stenographers, a stenographer or court reporters works in the courtroom and transcribes spoken words. So they have a very important profile. It's a very important job. And transcribe spoken words by typing them into steno machine, a kind of shorthand typewriter. Fast and accurate typing skills are vital for a stenographer job. Stenographers have to be licensed and certified in addition to passing a certain special exam. Court master in Supreme Court, court officer in High Court and bench clerk in lower courts. Their duty is to call out the names of the parties, docket of the case, etc. तो वो मूवीज में भी देखा होगा आपने वो जो नाम लेते हैं मैटर्स का तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में देयर इज नो सच थिंग इसके वहां पे नंबर लिखा आता है बोर्ड होता है सो दे आर जनरली कॉल्ड कोर्ट मास्टर हाई कोर्ट में भी दे हैव दैट थिंग डिस्ट्रिक्ट कोर्ट में अभी भी वो नाम लेते हैं पेशकार भी बोलते हैं उनको टाइपिस्ट कोर्ट टाइपिस्ट बेटर नोन एज कोर्ट रिपोर्टर्स create verbatim transcripts of legal proceedings. Beyond their official function includes carrying briefcases and files for judges both in court and to home and back. They have to be on call at all times, responding to every ring of the bell by a judge. Anybody who has studied up to class 8 can apply for the class 4 post and they are only required to clear an interview. Court attendance functions include carrying files from one room to another, photocopy of documents, helping officials in preparing documents, getting office correspondence typed, etc. Official drivers. You all know, I mean, their function. For judges of High Court and Supreme Court and High Court. So 2 attendants are also provided to the judge. All right. So now different criteria to be appointed as a judge. Okay. Can you share Article 124, Niharika? Niharika, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sharing.
Page number 7. All right. So Article 124, as per that, a person shall not be qualified for appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court unless he is a citizen of India and has been for at least 5 years a judge of a High Court or of 2 or more such courts in succession, or has been for at least 10 years an advocate of a High Court or of 2 or more such courts in succession, or is in the opinion of the President a distinguished jurist. There are various procedures for the appointment of judges in the Supreme Court. The appointment is governed by various provisions in the Indian Constitution. Article 124 of the Indian Constitution deals with the appointment of Chief Justice and judges of the Supreme Court. The collegiate system is still followed for the appointment of the judges. So recently, like there are many advocates, many eminent lawyers from Supreme Court who have been directly elevated to the bar, like Justice Rohinton Nariman, Justice Indu Malhotra, Justice UU Lalit. So that is a very recent trend. उससे पहले नहीं ऐसा हुआ था directly, मतलब अभी तक शायद 6-7 ही lawyers होंगे जो directly Supreme Court lawyers who directly became Supreme Court judges. So I've seen Rohinton Nariman sir arguing in the court or Indu Malhotra ma'am arguing in the court. So now they have become judges. Okay, Article 124 of the Constitution says only 7 judges can be appointed to the Supreme Court and the appointment can be increased when the Parliament deems it to be necessary. The President has the power to appoint judges after consulting the Chief Justice of India, the other judges of the Supreme Court, and also in certain cases other judges of the High Court. The judges can hold office until they attain 65 years of age. Article 127 of the Indian Constitution deals with the appointment of ad hoc judges in the Supreme Court. Article 124 of the Indian Constitution provides various qualifications which have to be satisfied for the appointment. The person who satisfied all these necessary qualifications is only recommended. They are, the recommended person must be a citizen of India, they should not be above 65 years of age, they must have been a judge for one or more High Court continuously for 5 years, they must have been an advocate in the High Court for at least 10 years. Number 5, the recommended person must be a distinguished jurist in the opinion of the President. Now, let me explain the collegium system a little bit to you. I'm sure all of you have heard about this word collegium. So, a collegium system is a system under which appointments or elevation of judges or lawyers to Supreme Court and transfers of judges of High Courts and Apex Courts are decided by a forum of the Chief Justice of India and the 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. There is no mention of the collegium either in the original Constitution of India or in successive amendments. The collegium system of appointment of judges was born through 3 judges' case which interpreted constitutional articles on October 28, 1998. The recommendations of the collegium are binding on the central government if the collegium sends the name of the judge or lawyers to the government for the second time. The collegium sends a recommendation of the names of lawyers or judges to the central government. Similarly, the central government also sends some of its proposed names to the collegium. The central government does the fact-checking and investigates the name and resends the file to the collegium. Collegium considers the name or suggestions made by the central government and resends the file to the government for final approval. If the collegium resends the same name again, then the government has to give its assent to the names, but time limit is not fixed to reply. This is the reason that appointment of judges takes a long time. So, कई बार क्या होता है कि government file लेके बैठ जाते हैं. They just sit on the files and they don't reply only if they don't like a name. Figures related to Indian judiciary show that Indian judiciary is occupied by few Indian families, like I've already mentioned that. Years after years, a person related to these families become the judges in the court. The system through which the judges of the Supreme Court or the High Court are appointed is called collegium system. High Court. Article 217 subclause 2, a person shall not be qualified for appointment as a judge of a High Court unless he is a citizen of India and has for at least 10 years held a judicial office in the territory of India or has for at least 10 years been an advocate of a High Court or of 2 or more such courts in succession. So there are certain qualifications which have to be fulfilled in order to appoint a person as a judge in the High Court. The qualifications regarding the appointments are provided in Article 217. According to the article, the person appointed must be a citizen of India. The person appointed should have held a judicial office in the territory of India for at least 10 years. The person appointed should have been an advocate in the High Court for at least 10 years. Article 217 of the Indian Constitution provides the procedure regarding the appointment of judges in the High Court. According to this article, the judges of the High Courts can be appointed only by the warrant of the President and his seal. The appointment can be done only after consulting the Chief Justice of India and the Governor of the state. Just a second. The appointment of judges other than the Chief Justice can be done after consulting the Chief Justice of the High Court. The provisions under this article must be followed even while appointing the additional judges according to Article 224. The person can hold the office as a judge until he is 62 years old. The consultation must be very effective. That is, all the necessary information about the person being recommended must be revealed and no information should be hidden in order to facilitate the appointment. The judge appointed must take an oath before the governor of the state according to Article 219. The oath must be according to the form that is provided for the purpose in the 3rd schedule. Now let me come to the district court, appointment of district judges. The appointment of, so that comes under Article 233 of the Constitution. So appointments of person to be and the posting and promotion of district judges in any state shall be made by the governor of the state in consultation with the High Court. exercising jurisdiction in relation to such state. A person not already in the service of the union or of the state shall only be eligible to be appointed as a district judge if he has been for not less than 7 years an advocate or a pleader and is recommended by the High Court for appointment. Article 233 of the Indian Constitution deals with the appointment of district judges. According to this article, there are certain qualifications for a person to be appointed as a district judge. They are: the person has to be in practice as an advocate or pleader for 7 years or more. The person should not be working in any other service of the union or the state. The person has to be recommended by the High Court for employment. So now I'll quickly go through our last point, why there are vacancies and how to curb them. The number of pending cases, which is directly related to the judge to population ratio, is an important tool to understand the justice delivery system in a democracy. The Supreme Court of India, I've already mentioned this point. Even the Supreme Court of India has 4 vacant positions, standing to the sanctioned strength of 34 judges. These 4 vacancies are due to the retirement of Justice Ranjan Gogoi, Deepak Gupta, R. Bhanumati and Arun Mishra. The Supreme Court Collegium responsible for making recommendations for filing these vacancies has has not been made any since Chief Justice Bobde took charge in November 2019. As of now, there are 411 vacant positions for judges in High Court of India against the sanctioned strength of 1,079 judges. These vacancies in High Courts have come about due to the retirement, resignation, demise and elevation of judges. High Courts like that of Patna, Allahabad, Karnataka, etc. have less than half or little above the sanctioned strength of judges in the court. This is problematic since Patna, being a highly populous state, requires more judges to maintain the ratio of judges to the population and maintain status of speedy disposal of cases. First, there has been a marginal decline in overall vacancies since the Chief Justice Bobde assumed charges in November 2019, but after the COVID-induced lockdown, vacancies have started increasing again. Also, the number of acting Chief Justice in High Courts has declined in this tenure. Second, throughout this period, there has been a continuous vacancy of more than 1/3 post in the High Court. For the appointment of judges to High Court, the proposal is sent first to the Union government. It has been argued that there has been undue delay in clearing names. There is also the argument that the government sometimes deliberately delays clearing the proposal. I've told you about this thing. So Niti Aayog in its stable document based on New India 75 so many years ago proposed for creation of all India judicial services to facilitate centralized appointment in lower courts. So I'm in favor of this suggestion of Niti Aayog. It is significant move due to following problems that act as roadblock to justice, because justice delayed is justice denied, and there are certain the reason behind this roadblock is there are so many vacancies in judiciary and judges are overburdened. So number 1, lesser number of judges. Number 2, non-timely delivery of pending cases. Number 3, inefficient use of manpower in delivering cases due to unfilled vacancies. Number 4, politicization of issues due to appointing power vested in governors of state concern. Number 5, inadequate representation of oppressed classes in judiciary. Karnataka. Karnataka and Rajasthan states. I don't know. Number 6, states can be deprived of their appointing power simply by a 2/3 of majority in Rajya Sabha. This requires a multi-dimensional approach through all India judicial services, such as all India judicial service may be instrumental in providing fair play in appointment of oppressed classes. Best legal talent would be on the table. Public faith in the judiciary will be restored. Corruption, nepotism would be strictly dealt with. Efficiency and efficacy will be improved through filled vacancies. Since justice delayed is justice denied, so an effective, efficient justice delivery system will address the concerns of society at large with timely delivery of cases. However, certain arguments against such a decision are: not all states face vacancies. States with lowest vacancies are Maharashtra and West Bengal. Pressuring poor performing states can narrow down the vacancies. Number 2, reservations are provided for in recruitment to state judiciary. Reservation for women are also given in certain states. Number 2, additional reservation for people from rural background are also given in certain states like Karnataka. Hence, centralizing recruitment will forfeit such reservations. As per Supreme Court rule, SCs and STs are not eligible for reservation outside their states. Centralizing will result in dominant sections of this group having an advantage over others. Given the diversity of the nation, a person recruited from the state will be better able to overcome the cultural and language barrier to reach out to the citizen and help in dispensing proper justice. Hence, centralizing recruitment of judges must be done while due consideration to all factors as stated above. And I would like to conclude by saying that there is no doubt upon the credibility of the Indian judiciary system. It's one of the largest judicial systems around the world, having law for almost all sort of criminal activities. If we look at the history of the Supreme Court since its inauguration, on 28th of January 1950 has delivered over 25,000 reported judgments, but the issue of corruption, pending cases, lack of transparency in the judiciary cannot be avoided. Thus, if the judicial system removes these backlogs, we might see Indian judicial system as the best judicial system in the world. Also, the faith of the common person in judiciary may be restored before it's completely lost. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this chance to deliver this address in front of such a such enthusiastic and such intelligent students, and I'm very happy to see your prompt response and the clarity of your thoughts, and I would like to stay in touch with all of you, so you people can stay in touch with me. So I have my intern Niharika kindly share the Chambers of Himanjali Gautam email ID with them, and so we are on Insta, we are on Twitter, we are on LinkedIn, so you can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Himanjali Gautam, and the name of my office is Chambers of Himanjali Gautam. In case you have any query, then you may write to me over there. So my team generally responds very quickly. And I have a very important announcement to make, that we are going to come up with a lifestyle magazine for lawyers. Not a magazine, it's a sort of blog, where in case you have any new idea, then you can share that with us. Or if you have an acumen or that flair for writing, and then you should get in touch with our office. So now over to the organizers. I think I wouldn't be able to take question answers because I'm really hard pressed for time. Since it's already 5:30, but yeah, we may take like 1 or 2 questions if you want.
Good evening, everyone. So in case if anyone is having any questions, he or she can ask or can type in the chat box. Everyone is clear? Yeah, Rushi.
Yes. Ma'am, not any questions specifically, but as no one is coming up with a question, I want to know your views on Bar Council scrapping 1 year this LLM course. What's your say on this? And they're continuously changing their scenarios. Like in
Yeah, I'm in favor of 1 year LLM. 2 साल में ऐसा क्या सिखा देंगे आपको, उसके बाद वो आपको 1 साल में भी generally what happens कि जो those who, if you go to UK or US, वहाँ पे भी 1 साल का ही होता है, 11 महीने का कोर्स होता है, so they teach you for 11 months. So those who want to, those who have money and resources, they would in any case, they'll go to UK or US, and those students who are not that privileged and who want to pursue LLM, and then I think 1 year, because at 1K, you try to, copy West, and, you want to have a 4-year graduation. And then this 1 year LLM, I think it's fine. If they can do it, then why can't we do it? And why did you give them permission at the first place?
Exactly. And ma'am, if you allow me, I have one more question.
Yes, please.
As you have mentioned that universities should allow students to practice in the code during the time of
Internship. So that is like my brainchild. So people would laugh at me, those seniors, if I suggest that thing.
Exactly.
But in my opinion, that's how it should be.
Exactly, it should be, ma'am. But our university and most of the universities I've heard, they have internships, which is mandatory. But as far as my experience, I haven't learned anything from my 4 internships, and that too in High Court. Because no one treat the freshers and internees well.
So at times, what happens is even interns go with lots of entitlement. So they're not sincere and they don't keep their eyes and ears open. Yes, these senior advocates and all the associates, they are very busy. So you need to, ask for work. You need to make yourself useful. Because even I have interns, so there are few who are very hardworking, and there are few interns who just don't want to work, or they have that entitlement, or they don't feel like working at all, and they're like, we don't do this work, we don't do that. So even that annoys us.
So I
Thank you, ma'am.
completely agree with you, ma'am, on this point that during the law school, basically what happens, there are classes from 9 to 5, but students don't get to learn that practical knowledge in that classes. Basically, they give that theoretical pressure and assignment pressure where students don't even get to learn the practical knowledge. Ma'am, Komal has a question.
Yeah.
If there are lots of pending cases in the courts, then if
See, I can see that all of you have many suggestions and you have new ideas, few out of the box ideas, because I personally feel that you law students, you are very creative and you are very intelligent. So for that thing, we are coming up with this life in black robes, ups and downs in lawyer's life. So I hope you people find it interesting, and you can write for it. If you have like suggestions, if you have some path-breaking ideas, some trailblazing ideas, or you feel that the way Arushi has said that she did not learn, then what made her think that she did not learn anything? So for that, we are giving you the platform. You can come up. It's going to be, so we are going to share tips for the budding lawyers, for the upcoming lawyers. We are going to talk about their fitness, their mental health, and the do's and don'ts during initial years of your career. So things to be kept in mind when you're going to set up your office, the court etiquettes, how to the relationship advice in terms of how you deal with your seniors, because many times what happens that many interns who are very hardworking, intelligent, but they do not have such they lack basic etiquettes. They come across as too arrogant or rude. So see, we are also human beings. So these senior advocates are also human beings. So if we don't really watch our tone or our body language, so these things, they have to be kept in mind, because ultimately it's a word of mouth kind of profession, and how you deal with other people, that is very important. So everything matters here: your body language, your etiquettes, how you address the court, how your body language is in front of the judges or with your seniors, with your juniors, because it's a small building. Supreme Court is not a very big building. So the way you can identify, or you recognize someone from the other section in your college. So in the similar fashion, like this, it's a small building. People see each other every day. So even these senior advocates, they notice, okay, this young lawyer is not working hard, or he's not very courteous, or this junior is very hardworking, or whenever his senior asks for a judgment, so he quickly and does the needful. So you're always under scrutiny. So everything matters here: how you dress up, how you behave, everything. So yeah. So you're most welcome to give your inputs and your suggestions, and we would love to hear from you.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am. My name is Mehul Bansal, and I am the co-founder of the organization. So here I would like to, I hope today everyone has learned a lot from you. And ma'am, really,
Thank you.
I would really like to thank you for the same. Now I would like to hand over the mic to Mr. Kashish Gupta, the founder of Legit Leaders, to give a final vote of thanks and take the session towards the final quiz.
Yes, ma'am. Hello. Can I clarify something about this point you mentioned regarding a recent BCI's rule? Ma'am, I want to clarify something. The first point is
I think you can write to us. I'll get back to you, because I'm a little hard pressed for time. You have my email ID, so you may write to us. We'll get back to you. Yeah.
But teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops. Good evening, everyone. Today, I, on behalf of Legit Leaders, would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to ma'am for such an informative session. I would like to thank the interns of the ma'am, all the attendees, moderator Ms. Purnima Kapoor, for sparing some time from a busy schedule and making this event a great success. Special thanks to Mehul, Ujjwal, Simran, Tanya and Madhavan from my team for your hard works and your dedication towards this event. Congratulations to all and thank you once again ma'am for such an informative session.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. Do stay in touch.
Of course ma'am, thank
Ma'am,
you.
please take your mail ID also.
Yes, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
I request all the attendees to wait for 2 minutes and we will be shortly sharing the link and details of the quiz.
So, Ashish, can you start?
Yes, Mehul, I will just show them the video once that how they can enter the quiz
Yeah.
and then we'll start with the quiz round.
Guys,
Okay?
the feedback links will be sent to you via your mail afterwards.
Along with your certificates.
Yeah.
Yes, Kashish and Mehul, it was a wonderful session. And thank you very much for inviting us on this session. And I want to share something.
Yeah, it's
Thank
our
you,
pleasure,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Of
You
course,
can go.
definitely.
Most welcome,
Okay.
ma'am.
So, thank you, Beta. So, I want to share this thing. I have a certain suggestion that whenever you want to going for internship, if you are from first year or the second year or the third year students, to go for trial court or the district courts. Don't go for high court or the supreme court, because you should earlier at the very first day you should know the working of the lower courts. Only then you will be able to learn things, or you will able to learn the art of drafting. Okay, so otherwise normally students what they do when the teacher said that they have to go for internship, so they firstly prefer to any high court, go to any high court, or to the directly to the supreme court. So whenever you want to going for internship, so just go for the trial court. Then you will learn a lot of things from them. So the lawyers who belongs to the trial court or the these session court or the district courts, so they are very helpful and they are very kind towards the students also. They try to help them to learn the new things, like how to read the judgments, how to code the judgments in the that drafting in the pleadings. Okay, how they draft the plaint, or how to draft the reply, or how to cross-examine. So you will learn a lot of things from the trial courts. So don't run after the high courts or the supreme courts. So this is my suggestion to the new students who are going for internships.
Yeah, I actually agree with ma'am. Legit Leaders also provides the platform for the people who want internships, good internships, according to their class and according to their level.
Yes, but
We
so
provide you
this
the
is
best internships at the best law firms and the chambers of independent lawyers. So I
Yes.
request all the attendees who are present here to follow the pages of the legit leaders on all the social media accounts. We will be sharing the links of the same in the chat box so that you can also get the best internships and can get to learn the practical exposure as said by Himanshini ma'am. So guys, just so I will be just starting the video. You can just see quickly that how to start the quiz, and then I'll be giving you your unique codes.
The video is not visible.
Just a minute. Now I'll be sharing the URL of the Glassmarker platform. You can access the test through the link sent in the chat box, and I'll be giving you your codes in a while, in just a minute. I will be just sending the codes in the chat box itself. Just a minute. Uh, Ma'am, you have to register yourself. Register as test taker. We request everyone just to wait for more few minutes. Actually, we are sending the codes. Just a minute, guys. We are really sorry for the same. We request you to wait. everyone has got the codes, and in case if you haven't got the codes, then please let me know in the chat box. And ma'am, as you were saying, your username is already registered. You can keep any username. So, like, suppose if your name is Komal01, so if your previous username is Komal01, then you can keep it 02 as well. Just a minute, Ashutosh. Ma'am, you can keep your username, you can keep any username. Like you can keep law112 or law123. In username Tulika, you have to create a username. Ma'am, can you please tell what error is it giving, or you can present your screen? Can you present your screen?
Sir, it is showing that the username is already registered.
Ma'am, it cannot be possible because there are a number of registrations, usernames which are available. So you can try keeping any other username.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sir, everyone has not given the test yet, so the further participants, and soon we will be declaring the results. Yes, sir, the results will be announced within few minutes on the Google Meet itself. Hello everyone, we are back. We really apologize for the inconvenience caused due to the excess consumption of time. So the names of the winners are ready. Just a minute, I'll be telling. The winners of the Legit Leaders webinar on 360 view of Indian judicial system rapid fire round are as follows. First position, Mr. Shubham. He has completed the quiz within 33 seconds. The second prize goes to Gaurav Kumar. He has completed the quiz within 2 minutes and 7 seconds. The third prize goes to Monica. She has completed the quiz within 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Fourth prize goes to Mohammad Osama Sadiq. He has taken 2 minutes and 54 seconds. And there's a tie between two for the fifth prize. The fifth prize goes to Apurv Kumar and Sujitha. They both have taken 3 minutes and 3 seconds. All these winners have got 100% result. Congratulations to all the winners. You are entitled to receive the following prizes as shown on the screen, and you are required to drop an email on official.legitleaders@gmail.com, and you will be and all others will be receiving your certificates within 2 to 3 working days. We thank all of you. Yeah, just a minute, I will repeat the names. The first prize goes to Mr. Shubham, second prize Garima, third Monica, fourth Mohammad Osama Sadiq, fifth it's a tie between Apurv and Sujitha. So congratulations to everyone once again on behalf of the entire team of Legit Leaders, and thank you so much for joining today.
Congratulations, everyone.